Hey guys, so in this video we are going to talk a little bit about an interesting article that I read not that long ago from ours truly, Jake Archibald, one of the Google advocates. So he made a very nice comment based on this. You may know about this little trend, which is called the CSS keylogger, which basically is the rediscovery that you can actually exploit the CSS selector system so that you can grab values or grab information or do different types of exploits on somebody's page. Now, there was a riot from a bunch of communities stating, like, kind of pointing out how much of a threat this specific exploit is going to affect certain ways of working, like in React, for example, where you can actually it can be actually very dangerous for you if this exploit finds its way to your web page. Now, what's interesting here was that there was an outcry basically that the browser vendors fixed this specific exploit, and Jake made a very nice little article stating that why. Basically, he asked the question, why should the browser vendors fix this? Because even if they fixed this specific exploit, what have they actually solved? Right? They have solved one specific abuse for one specific use case, for one very specific situation. How's that going to help anybody? I'm not going to retell the whole article, but the gist of it was that the final statement was that whenever you depend on a third party, you are taking a risk. And that is, I think, a beautiful way of structure, this is a man that I can truly respect. This is a man who has thought about something. He has done some thinking. He hasn't gone on Twitter and flamed a bunch of people for something that he shouldn't be that should be so gosh darn obvious to him. That, I mean, it is obvious to him. That's why I love him for it. I love him because he realizes that he understands the fundamental problem. The idiots who go and flame, they don't. Let me explain. Guys, every single time you have downloaded an NPM package, you have included a third party's CSS, something like Bootstrap, whatever, you have trusted another programmer with access to your application. That's what you've done. You have taken a risk. I don't care who is providing you with this third-party script, CSS, call it whatever you want. You have trusted somebody else. So how in the world can somebody get it into their heads that it is the browser vendor's responsibility to foresee the possibility that once the browser has gotten gotten all the dependencies that you have declared it, no one else, you have added it to your project. Now it somehow is the responsibility of the browser vendor to foresee what you expect to happen. Because that's exactly what it is. In order to fix this sort of issue, the browser vendor has to figure out what malicious attempts somebody might try with their third party script on your page. Bottom line is this, guys. If you include somebody else's script, you are trusting them. If you have a ads tracker, nothing is stopping that script from pulling down a bunch of other scripts, even if that script... I even made a video about this, guys. I made a video about it on about npm packages. If you depend on my library and I depend on a hacked library, you get that into your software. That's a fact, and it will happen. It probably is happening. That's the way the web works. That's how it works in general. It doesn't just go for JavaScript, it goes for everything. If you are using somebody else's code, you have taken a risk. And I want to push. I will want to add my voice to this statement that Jake made about like the fundamental issue is not that the browser vendors should fix this specific CSS keylogger trend, because there's so many ways that I could fuck up your website with CSS. I mean, should they fix that I can set display none on the body? Or how I can rearrange everything on your page and move things around. And like, there's so many things I could do with CSS. It doesn't have to be JavaScript, guys. If I get my CSS into your web page and I want to fuck up that web page, I can. If I want to, I can. So that's the fact of the world. If somebody else gets their code onto your website, you are at their mercy. That's why you need to have trust. This is what I tell people. Trust is the most important thing in business. It's the most important thing in human society. It is the most important thing in software development. Trust is everything. If somebody can trust you, you can do business. If you don't have trust, nobody don't want to interact with you. It's that simple. And the vicious part about this is that there's so much that is depending on this trust. Honestly, software development as it works today, like open source communities, like all of this stuff, it wouldn't exist unless we had that level of trust in each other. Some people say that it's too much. Some people say that and I kind of agree to a point. I suppose that it's heartwarming to know that there's so many good, awesome people out there in the world who are just doing things to be nice. Because for the most part, as far as we know, there's not every single piece of software or third-party library we depend on is malicious. But then again, we don't really know that, do we? We just assume that it's not being compromised somehow. But what I want you to take away from this, guys, is that you should know how the web platform works. And to me, it sounds very odd that a group of people like who apparently work on the web would blame, or rather call for a fix for an issue that fundamentally is not the browser vendor's responsibility. Like, it's not their fault. It's their fault. If you have included a third-party script on your web page that potentially can compromise your entire system, that's you. That's your problem, not anybody else's. Your problem. If you haven't checked that the third-party library is not doing loading some malicious code onto your web page, if you are that concerned about security that you're willing to, that you have to consider the possibility that somebody is compromising your system, then that's on you. It's on you to fix that. That's why I keep telling people, ad script, like ad trackers, all that stuff, just always get your stuff from a credible source. And even credible sources can be a little bit dangerous sometimes, but at least they have a brand name or something like that they kind of have to protect. Because if they did, the bigger the brand, the more established it is, the better it is the more likely it is that you can trust them, because they have something to lose. If it's just this obscure one single person somewhere in the world, that's a little bit risky, because they don't really have anything to lose in comparison. So what I want to end with saying here, guys, is that cross-site scripting attacks and so forth, that's not just about JavaScript. You can do it with CSS. You can do it with anything that is included. I mean, you can do it with HTML. There's exploits that you can get attacked from so many different angles when it comes on the web. And the only way you can be completely sure that you're not being compromised is by not depending on third-party libraries. This is why I tell you, always really think about what you're doing when you're adding another library. Do you really need it? And if you really need it, is it secure? Do you feel confident that you can trust the source of this code? If you're ever uncertain about that, you're taking a risk. Have a great day.